Hey everybody, this is just a short video on using Smart Duplicate. So Smart Duplicate is a feature that just came in recently. Regular duplicate is obviously selecting an object and hitting Control D. So when you hit Control D, it just makes an exact copy of an object, and you can hit Control D on multiple objects and you can duplicate out anything that you've selected essentially. So Control D will make an exact copy. Now, Smart Duplicate's kind of interesting because how this works is using Shift D. Now, first of all, though, got to make sure it's turned on. So if I go to my Translate button here in the toolbox, at the bottom we've got this Smart Duplicate menu option. Just got to make sure these two are turned on. And right now we're using copy. So we're not using instance, we're using copy. So the way this works again is if I hit Shift D, not Control D, Shift D, and drag out a copy, whenever I hit Shift D again, it's going to do exactly the same thing that I just completed, which is kind of interesting. Now if I hit Shift D and drag something out and then rotate it slightly, and I hit Shift D again, it's going to keep repeating that over and over again. You know, so I can get, well, it almost looks like a helix of some kind. And this also applies to scale. So again, if I hit Shift D and translate this out, so using WER, I could add in maybe a little bit of a rotation, and I could also add in a little bit of scale. So again, if I were to go in and use Shift D again, it's just going to repeat that over and over and over again until I've got nothing left. All right, so we can get some interesting results from that, depending on the angle you duplicate it out from, right? So if I were to maybe change the pivot here, so remember that's D, and just maybe move it to the base here, or maybe I'll use grid snap, so X, and just snap it to a grid point, hit D again. So again, if I hit Shift D, and then rotate this out slightly, and then hit Shift D again, basically I can, create, like a gear or arms of a clock or something like that. Or lastly, if I were to hit Shift D, move this out, and just very slightly raise it up, again, I can create an interesting pattern as I repeat this over and over and over again. Right, and I can just keep going as long as I want. And again, we can get some cool results from that. Okay, that's using the Smart Duplicate option inside Maya. Cheers.